Going into the 2022 NFL Draft, it was just about agreed on that Malik Willis was the best quarterback in the class. Some mock drafts had him slated as high as the second overall pick, but he didn't even go in the first 2 rounds. So, how did the Titans manage to get likely the most talented quarterback in the class, and what does his future in Tennessee look like? Malik Willis took over as a starting quarterback at Liberty in 2020, which was a COVID-shortened season, and he was actually pretty damn good. He passed for 2,250 yards and 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, plus 14 touchdowns and nearly 1,000 yards on the ground. Yeah, let's not forget that Willis can absolutely torch you on the ground if he wants to. The Flames went 9-1 before a Cure Bowl victory over Coastal Carolina. Then, last year, Liberty as a whole kind of regressed a bit. The Flames went 8-5, and Willis, well, he passed for a career-high 2,857 yards and 27 touchdowns, also adding over 800 yards and 13 scores on the ground, but it did come with 12 interceptions. Looking back, it feels like most people just forget that Malik Willis didn't start off at Liberty. He gets hell for playing at an independent school and not having to play top-tier talent, but at one point, Willis was slinging it at Auburn. Well, kind of. Over the first 3 years of his collegiate career, he spent 2 years at Auburn and threw just 14 passes because he was stuck behind Jarrett Stidham. The Tigers got a nice recruit in Willis, a 3-star, top 400 prospect, 21st best athlete, and 35th best player in Georgia. But ultimately, his talents went to Liberty because he couldn't get any playing time. And in 2019, he had to sit out due to NCAA transfer rules. I think it's safe to say that Willis didn't have the most normal college journey, and the same can be said about his time in high school. For how insanely talented we know Willis to be, he didn't even crack the varsity lineup at Westlake High School in Atlanta until his junior year. Willis was good enough in that single season, however, to pick up an offer and actually committed to Virginia Tech. Yeah, I'm sure Jackson is still contemplating life over Virginia Tech losing Malik Willis. But then Willis transferred to Roswell High School, and he ended up just absolutely exploding. He had over 2,500 passing yards and over 1,000 rushing yards and 37 touchdowns. Roswell went 14-1 and were extremely close to winning the state title, but it just didn't happen. Following his senior season, Willis was actually getting ready to enroll at Virginia Tech right when Auburn offered him. Willis obviously jumped ship to Auburn, and the rest is history. Things just didn't work out there, so he moved on and ended up solidifying himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the country at Liberty. Ahead of the 2022 NFL Draft, we were talking about Malik Willis going as high as 2nd overall to the Lions. Mock drafts had him all over the place, but almost all of them still had him going somewhere in the first round. Of course, when draft day finally came around, Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback taken off the board day 1 of the draft. And even after the 2nd round, Willis was still left waiting. Even then, the Falcons went with Desmond Ridder over him in the 3rd round. Finally, the Titans ended his slide at pick 86 in the 3rd. I don't think anyone can deny just how athletic and impressive Malik is in terms of talent, but his draft fall was fueled by a few things. Ian Rappaport said it was due to the offense that he ran at Liberty because it was simple, and teams were worried that it would take him a while to adapt to a pro-style offense. Hugh Freeze ran a spread-style offense that isn't very common in the pros, meaning that Willis would have to play more under center and have to read the field from tighter formations. Plus, Lance Zierlein had noted in his scouting report of Willis that he had already had plenty of issues reading the field at Liberty, showing poor field recognition and lack of quickness when it came to his progressions. That alone was enough to dump his draft stock. It hasn't been long since Willis became a Titan, but already there's been plenty of drama surrounding him and new teammate Ryan Tannehill. Although they actually haven't really had any drama. It's just been this fake drama thing that the media's decided to run with that probably isn't really even a thing. I mean, yeah, Ryan Tannehill might be a little upset, but hell, I would be too. The Titans drafted his future replacement without even giving him a heads up, and oh yeah, they traded away his number 1 wide receiver AJ Brown too. So, of course, when Tannehill was asked about the situation, he was candid about it. He said they were competing against each other, which is true, and that he didn't think it was a part of his job to be his mentor. A lot of the media keeps leaving out some of the quote in the next part when Tannehill said, "If he learns from me along the way, then that's a great thing," which honestly, I think Tannehill is right about. The Titans aren't paying him millions of dollars to develop some rookie quarterback. They're paying him to win football games. Willis got asked about his comments and kind of laughed it off. He said they chopped it up a bit and that it was never really anything negative. And I think he's right. Willis said Ryan's a good dude, and he apparently had him over to his house. I think from the very beginning that it was possibly wishful thinking that Malik Willis would go in the first round or even in the top 5. I mean, yeah, the NFL does put a ridiculous premium on quarterbacks at the draft, so it could have made some sense, but there were still huge concerns there. That being said, out of all of the quarterbacks in this year's draft, he was by far the most flashy and fun to watch. I think any scout you talk to will still say that Willis has the highest ceiling of any quarterback taken at the draft, but at the same time, he also has one of the highest chances of becoming a bust. Players like that have to go to the right franchise and be put in the right situation. Now, the question is whether or not Malik Willis is getting put in that spot. We all know the Titans like Willis, but obviously not enough to take him earlier than 86. General Manager John Robinson said that when the Titans got to the 3rd round, that Willis was the best player on the board, and that his role in Tennessee would be based on how quickly he could come in and learn the offense and improve his game to earn the respect of teammates. There is a lot of potential for Malik Willis to be a bust, and everybody knows that. But just with his raw talent alone, he's going to be a very interesting prospect to watch, but it's going to have to take the right steps to develop him. Willis is going to need time to learn. Tennessee can't throw him to the Wolves in week 1, and that's why I think Willis probably wouldn't have worked in Detroit or Washington. With the Titans, Willis has time to sit behind Ryan Tannehill and learn. He can figure out how to run an offense and hopefully improve his field recognition and ability to look through reads. Regardless of what happens with Willis, I'm sure as hell excited to watch him play.